1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Three, 4, 5. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered for Friday, March 1st, 2019. I'm Monique Presley in for Roland. He'll be back on Monday. More fallout for Trump from the Michael Cohen hearings, but we're focusing on the use of a black woman as a prop to prove Trump is not a racist. Representative Stacey Paskett from the U.S. Virgin Islands is here live. A Maryland lawmaker and the First Lady of Virginia get in trouble for racist behavior. Seems like a pattern. How come some white people just don't understand what matters to us? Former Maine Governor Paul LePage spills the beans on why the GOP is focused on voter suppression. We know why, but he said it out loud. We're live in Selma, Alabama with the Reverend Jesse Jackson talking about Bloody Sunday, mobilizing our vote this year, and all about reparations and black candidates for president. And a shady group is trying to get Trump to water down the plan to reform the Baltimore police. We'll talk to the reporter who exposed the sham organization. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
I'm Monique Presley. Roland is in Selma for the Bloody Sunday anniversary. He'll be back live on Monday. Fallout from the Michael Cohen hearing before Chairman Elijah Cummings' Oversight Committee on Wednesday continues. New lines of inquiry on possible crimes by Donald Trump. More witnesses to be called. But we want to focus more on North Carolina Congressman Mark Meadows' use of African-American HUD official Lynn Patton as a prop. You'll recall Meadows brought Patton to the hearing, supposedly to prove Donald Trump is not a racist because he has a black friend. That did not sit well with committee members of color, and they were vocal about it.
Just to make a note, Mr. Chairman, just because someone has a person of color, a black person working for them, does not mean they aren't racist. And it is insensitive that some would even say it's the fact that someone would actually use a prop, a black woman, in this chamber, in this committee, is alone racist in itself.
Meadows was near tears, declaring he was not a racist.
There's nothing more personal to me than my relationship. My nieces and nephews are people of color. Not many people know that. You know that, Mr. Chairman. And to indicate that I asked someone who is a personal friend of the Trump family, who has worked for him, who knows this particular individual, that she's coming in to be a prop, it's racist to suggest that I asked her to come in here for that reason. And Mr. Chairman, you and I have a personal relationship that's not based on color. And to even go down this direction is wrong, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, but the receipts. Yesterday, we showed you 2 videos from 2012 of Meadows talking about sending President Obama back to Kenya.
And so what we're going to do is take back our country. 2012 is the time that we're going to send Mr. Obama home to Kenya or wherever it is. We're going to do it.
You know, I see it as if we do our job from a grassroots standpoint, we won't have to worry about it. You know what? We'll send him back home to Kenya or wherever it is. You know, we'll send him back home.
And late yesterday, a third such video was found by the Washington Post.
Obama has gotten arrogant. He's using the pen to create and legislate from the executive branch, and we need to say enough and enough. And 2012 is when we're going to send him back home, wherever that may be.
Meadows has tried to explain this away, but we haven't yet heard an apology to President Obama or the rest of us, for that matter. Another member of the committee is Representative Stacey Plaskett from the U.S. Virgin Islands, who joins us now by phone from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for being with us. Representative Plaskett,
Sure.
There was a video of you circulating on social media, got to say, I know I loved it, of your reaction when Congressman Jordan, the ranking Republican, was trying to stop the hearing altogether on a procedural matter. It's now been viewed over 3 million times. I'd like to show our viewers the reaction that you justifiably gave to Congressman Jordan and ask what you were thinking at the time.
Simple motion, Mr. Chairman. We're watching the sausage. Regular order to have the 24 hours in advance.
You know what? You reacted in a way that we all felt and then some, but what was going through your head as he couldn't even let the hearing start before he causes this big scene?
Well, I think, I think people should have the context behind it. The Chairman Elijah Cummings of Baltimore, who's the chair of the committee, was trying to move the committee along, and I made a motion for regular order, which would stop the ranking member, Jordan, from speaking, and we would continue to proceed. But, of course, in his usual fashion, Ranking Member Jordan doesn't like to follow the rules when the rules are not in his favor. And so he was continuing, I felt, to be very disrespectful to the chairman, very disrespectful to the committee by continuing to talk over the chairman. And after the first time when I made the motion for regular order, and I saw that he was not desisting from continuing to speak over the chairman, I turned around to let him know that he was being disrespectful to the chair and that he needed to be quiet.
Now, do you believe that this is just a Republican ranking member who has sour grapes about being out of favor and out of power and not being in leadership anymore?
This is Jim Jordan's usual activity. These are his usual antics. He stylizes himself as a disruptor, and that's why, and he's going to be the bulldog. That's why you saw throughout the hearings other Republicans yielding their time to him, because he's not only a bully to the Democrats, but he's a bully in his own party by attempting to supersede other members of his own party and taking their time because he feels that he's the only one who has the most important thing to say.
Right. Now, for those of us who were watching the hearing, it seemed obvious that the only real strategy the Republican committee members had was to call Cohen liar, liar, pants on fire as many times as they possibly could and state the obvious, that he's been convicted of a crime and is going to jail. What did you see as actual important testimony that came from the hearing that you participated in?
Well, I think what was important is that you did not see the Republicans going after what would have been in any other hearing or any other in a courtroom or elsewhere, the thing that was most important, which was the corroborating evidence, that being the receipts, that being the filings that he showed, the financial statements that he presented as evidence. What they tried to show were newspaper articles, magazine articles. I mean, really, those are other people's opinions. They are not substantial evidence that would fly anywhere. I mean, I can take my daughter's tweets or my children's tweets and put that up there for the value that the information that they put up on the screen at the time. So I think what's important for the American people is not taking both the testimony that Cohen gave and the substantiation and coupling with the corroborating evidence, as well as the witnesses, the list of individuals that he says can corroborate the things that he's saying. And you can be sure that Chairman Cummings, along with the stellar staff who really put together a lot of what you saw in the hearing, are going to be combing through not just the transcripts, but as well those other information that we saw. You know, this lays a foundation for other hearings as well, for other discussions, whether it be his taxes, whether it be the discussion about untruthfulness on the part of the president. Those are the things that I think were really very important in this hearing.
Now, last question. Was there anything, I know you probably can't tell us, but is there anything that you thought was particularly new and corroborative of Cohen's testimony that happened in the closed session that we hopefully are going to be finding out in the general public soon?
Sure. No, I can't say anything.
I tried.
And
I had
also,
to try.
particularly because I'm not a member of the Intelligence Committee. That's where it went on, and I have not spoken with my colleagues from that committee, and it's rare that they really give very substantive details about what happens in the Intelligence Committee. You know, we are all working in our lanes. Our staffs are discussing with one another, as well as the chairman, so that we're really making sure that we dot all the I's and cross the T's. As you saw in the hearing on oversight, we did not spend a lot of time on the whole Russia collusion. We really went after the criminality and questions of untruthfulness, as well as tax evasion and others, to try and lay the groundwork in that area. And the other committees are working on the specifics that they've outlined are within their purview. So I think that that's the important thing. And one thing I did want to say, you talked about Meadows and the back and forth with Congresswoman Tlaib. One of the things I think American people should understand is, you know, of course, that's a trope, a racial trope that individuals give when they say that I have a friend, you know, I have another individual, someone in my family is black, therefore I can't be a racist. We all know that Massa had plenty of children that were black, and that still made him a plantation owner. governor at the time. So that's not really giving me any comfort. But what I think was really important in there, and one of the things that we see over and over again, is that I still believe that Congressman Meadows owes not only Ms. Tlaib, but others on the committee an apology for what he did in that committee. And I found it very, very telling that the individual who ended up having to tell and having to apologize was my fellow colleague, Congresswoman Tlaib. And that seems to me the usual thing that happens. If a black woman or a woman of color says that they're offended, that they've been hurt, that they've been victimized, we end up in the end making them be the one who are have to apologize for offending or bringing offense or bringing that hurt out into the public. And that's got to stop.
It sure absolutely does. Thank you so much for being with us here on the show today, Representative Plaskett. But thank you also just for the example that you are for me, for young women who want to be you one day and do great things. Happy Women's History Month to you. You're doing us proud.
Blessings to you and to your audience, and thank you all for having our backs and being there for us as we're doing this work in Washington. We can't do it without you all, and the words of encouragement and the support for what we're doing is really what keeps us going. So I want to thank you and the good people of the Virgin Islands for putting me there to do that work.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care.
Let's go to our panel. We have joining us today Eugene Craig, CEO of the Eugene Craig Organization, CJ Jordan, CEO of Jordan Management Group, and Joseph Williams, Senior Editor, U.S. News and World Report. Welcome, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Marianne Lasanti is the Maryland state legislator who used the N-word to describe a legislative district in the very prosperous and majority African-American Prince George's County just outside of D.C. Yesterday, the Maryland House of Delegates voted unanimously to censure Lasanti. Earlier this week, she was stripped of a committee chairmanship. However, Lasanti says she will not resign, even though both Democrats and Republicans have called on her to step down. Eugene, how can it be? Or is that, I know you don't want to hear this, but is this more Trump era stuff? I'm not saying you defend everything he does, but where you get just flat out busted and it doesn't even matter now. You just say, I'm sorry about what happened and keep on going on with your business.
Which I think is crazy. Delegate Lasanti is a Democrat delegate from Harford County. The Republican governor, Larry Hogan, has called on her to resign. The lieutenant governor has called on her to resign. The Dem leadership has called on her to resign. They stripped her of all her committee slots, her leadership slots. The squeeze has really been being put on her, but she's refusing to resign. And she's taking the Northam route of, oh, hey, that'd be the easy way out. I want to, actually do something and hire somebody. And everybody's looking at her like, look, listen, you took it to the nth degree, literally. There are some things that could be ambiguous and misunderstood. Using the word nigger and calling it a nigger district is not misunderstanding. I mean, that's the universal word that you know not to use. If you can understand not to cuss around your grandparents or parents, you can understand not to use that word drunkenly in the bar.
It seems like it's everything goes right now, though, CJ. Isn't this the time where the voters really have to step up and demand an action?
Well, I think the voters of that particular county in her district should do a recall, if they're able to do a recall. And I think she needs to be primaried. The last result, if the voters choose not to do that, I think you put pressure on in asking the Speaker, the President of the Senate, and the Governor to withhold funds for her district. Mm-hmm. And then when they don't get any taxpayer money back in their district for their particular projects, then they would put pressure on her to go quietly.
Perhaps what people don't realize is that this county is one of the most progressive, one of the most affluent, and one of the wealthiest for people of color, for black folks in the United States of America. And that's what she had to say about it.
Well, I mean, she represents Harford County. I mean, which is where my parents live, actually. Ironically enough, I mean, they grew up in the area, so they went back there. But this is not out of the norm for Harford County. I mean, she will speak that way of a district that's very affluent. I mean, think about how she talks about districts that aren't that way. I mean, if you're talking about that, if you're talking smack about PG County,
right,
you know, which is very influential, which has had a lot of success and a lot of development and brings a lot of cash to the state of Maryland.
Yep.
What she say about a district, far-flung district, or a pocket of that district that doesn't have that kind of wealth? And the other thing that it sort of strikes me as is the Republicans are saying a lot of the quiet parts out loud right now. I mean, it's almost as if the filter has been removed. I mean, earlier, the Meadows segment, I mean, that was kind of tasteless, you know, a little tasteless thing to do. We're also talking about Hogan and those. It's like it's all coming out in the open. Well, she's a Democrat, but I mean, even so, Harford County is no bastion of progressivism.
Oh, I agree with you.
And you know, and people on that conservative end, I mean, apparently Democrats can do it too because it happened in the State House of Virginia. You know, but the one common denominator that they all have is that they're white people of a certain age.
This is true.
And that's the one thing that makes the sort of progress that we've having in the last couple of years really look like it's scraping against the establishment. No matter what race you are going to have to cede some power, especially to the new black women that are on the House of Representatives.
Now, in a strong county system of government, is there no vehicle for action by the governor?
So no, at least not in Maryland. Maryland governor doesn't have the power to remove somebody. I do know that the legislature is looking at potentially rushing a bill through to provide a recall vehicles. Maryland also doesn't have a recall vehicle. If she were to step down, the local Democratic Central Committee would provide the governor with 3 nominees to pick from.
Okay.
But is it likely that she is going to step down? I mean,
Well,
it's kind of like saying make me.
I don't think she's going to step down.
There's nothing. The reason that they censured her is because she refused to resign.
Right.
And they wouldn't even allow her to speak on.
And she put up with the censure.
Yeah, she put up with the censure. And so,
it's not going anywhere.
Today, the Legislative Black Caucus and other leaders stood up and made another call for her to resign. And being that she's resisting it, there's a lot of discussion now about pushing through a bill to allow for recall elections in the state of Maryland, which there are none right now.
Right.
And
okay.
even
So
with
speaking
the
of, one second. Speaking of Republicans, Eugene, showing their behinds, you all listened to what my discussion was with Representative Plaskett. Meadows.
Oh, Meadows full of shit. But I'm gonna say Meadows and Jordan are two of the same, two monsters of the same head. Meadows, almost coming to tears, after going back over the last half decade or so, playing the racist birtherism trope. I mean, Jim Jordan. This is Meadows and Jordan is what you get when you have extremely gerrymandered districts. There's no reason Jim Jordan should be a current sitting member of Congress after the Ohio State scandal that came out last year, in which he did far worse than Joe Paterno did at Penn State and is now a sitting member of Congress.
But do you believe that, I mean, some did understand, some didn't understand that because of the rules of decorum for the committee and for
it literally says in the House
House
rules you can't call another member a racist.
And I did not think that she did. She said that it was a racist act. She didn't say that he was a racist. And to me, she shouldn't have had to backtrack the way that she did. But it's just as Representative Plaskett said, the person who has been offended is the one who always ends up having to make the apology.
Indeed.
But what I also noticed, have you guys noticed like the pass that Lynn Patton is getting? You can't just be carted out and paraded against your will. I mean, she took part in this.
They properly planned it. I mean,
scam.
She tweeted it out earlier that morning, and there, some chat in the conservative Twitter sphere about why she was going to be there. I mean, she willingly, happily did it. I mean, this is a role, but if you understand Lynn Patton, this is the role that Lynn has played. For the last 3 or so years, Lynn has always been one of the go-to folk that's becomes, even before the pre-existing of Katrina Pierce in the Trump world, Lynn was the go-to person of, hey, I'm Donald's black friend. I want to cape for Donald. Before, she'll do it, then Omarosa would do it, and Omarosa came back and say, hey, he actually is a racist. But, Lynn is now, the go-to still, hey, I've known Donald for X amount of years. I've known the family for X amount of years. But, Michael Cohen made an amazing point. He said, ask her, how many black executives there are in the entire Trump organization across the world. And that answer and that number is absolutely 0.
Right.
Even when she worked for them, she wasn't an exec. They were busy
talking over him while he was trying to give that offer of proof. Joe, how long are we going to have to deal with this I have black friends defense to racism?
How old is this country? I mean, it's a standard trope. It's getting more and more tired, and I think people are kind of realizing that it's not going to work that much longer anymore. But part of the problem is that there was a Pew study that was out maybe a month and a half ago, that upwards of 75% of all white Americans do not have another friend of a different race. So in that dynamic, you have people who are scraping and trying to prove that they aren't racist because they don't think they are, but the fact that they live their lives kind of proves otherwise. And the mere fact that it's still a thing indicates that we're going to have a long way to go before it isn't.
Right. The silos are real, though, CJ, for everyone, because you can talk to white people and find many that don't have black friends. You can talk to black people who do not associate with people who are not black, but not just aren't black. They don't associate with people outside of their religion. They don't associate with people outside of their neighborhoods. But there's a difference between refusing to associate and being a racist. And I've been seeing so much going back and forth on Twitter where people who are in power in majority want to call black people racist, and I keep trying to explain to them that that's no possible.
Well, I think when you have such a rapid response piece through online platforms, I think you can go to the extremes. And I think at the end of the day, I don't think everybody is racist, and I think people have some issues, but doesn't mean that they are a racist.
Right.
And I think we're using that term racist so frequently now that I think when there's a true incident, I don't think people are going to be so numb when it comes to racists like Jussie Smollett.
Right, and being a racist means that you are in a position of power and you utilize your view of your own race as superior to another in order to take action against the non-privileged class. So,
but the other
for whoever didn't know what racism was, I got to move on. But for whoever didn't know, like the next time you get called a racist, check them on it. Another white politician not stepping down is Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. He, of the racist pictures on his medical school yearbook page, his wife Pam Northam now is in hot water for handing out raw cotton balls to school kids on tour of the governor's mansion. She's apologized, of course, but these two stories point to a problem. Some white people who should know better have no idea what the N-word or the whole concept of cotton means to us. Let's go to the panel on this one. Joe.
Well, again, you don't know any black people. You don't understand the black experience in America. You think you're doing a good thing, but really it's just.
But I don't
insane.
think they have that. These folk don't have that excuse. I mean, as prominent members of the Democrat Party, they are surrounded around black people.
But do they, though? I mean,
absolutely.
I think it's a difference between working with somebody, knowing somebody, and having an intimate friend who you call up if you're in a jam. Having somebody over to dinner or late night or doing things that you would not do from 9 to 5, as opposed to like having a dinner or drink somebody who you know.
I'm going to make a crazy argument here. I think it's arguable if Delegate Lansanti has done what Northam's wife did. Maybe give her a pass because of the way Hartford County set up the structure. Governor Northam, who served as the lieutenant governor of the state, who's been involved with Democrat politics, which in Virginia includes a ridiculous ton of black folk, has no excuse of not being in tune to something of the tune of, hey, in the state where the Confederacy was born and died, and the state that literally depended upon cotton as a crop in the early stages of this country, handing out cotton balls to black kids.
Right, and that's the ignorance of it.
And that's where
not we don't understand black people and why black people would be offended. They can't claim that, and they also can't claim, with this being the home state that they now lead, that they don't understand the history of the cotton trade and the part that black people played in the success of Virginia. So, CJ, it's a little ridiculous to me at this point.
As a native Virginian, someone who grew up in the real Virginia, that's what we natives say between Southern Virginia and Northern Virginia, what you're seeing is two things. One, you're seeing the generation of those who were young, because people forget it was not until the late 70s that we really start integrating schools in Virginia.
Right.
And you talk about, T.C. Williams, the movie that, Denzel Washington played in, and you saw, I Am the Titans. So you're seeing a generation of white Democratic politicians who were there when we just took the shield down on busing and integration. They're coming into power, and they never have really changed.
Right. Dixiecrats. Yes.
And they've never changed. But you also are seeing this piece of black, not just Democrats, but just black Virginians grapple with our place in society and how our response should be, because we were the state of the Confederacy. It is where the Civil War ended in Richmond and Petersburg. It is also that place of Sally Hemings. And, we're not upset, and it's kind of hard to explain.
Well, we're not upset because there's conditioning involved, but we're gonna have to do better, people. Paul
and we do need to do better.
Paul LePage used to be the very right-wing Republican governor of Maine. He's made racist statements in the past, but this week he said out loud what we know is behind all the fake outrage about voter fraud. I need to use quotations, air quotes on that. Republicans are scared that fair and free elections will topple the white patriarchy here in America. Maine is considering a proposal already adopted by a few states that would pledge to cast the state's electoral votes to whichever candidate for president won the popular vote. Remember that Hillary Clinton received nearly 3 million more votes than Trump. Here's what LePage said about the proposal. Actually, what would happen if they do what they say they're gonna do is white people will not have anything to say. It's only going to be the minorities that would elect. It would be California, Texas, Florida. Is he wrong, Joe?
It's an interesting argument. I will say that. And again, they're saying, well, yeah. I mean, and they're saying the.
But is he wrong?
He's wrong.
And you're calling it a racist argument, and I understand. We're talking about underlying motivation for his observation, but what I'm asking is just a strict populist census geography question about which citizens will really elect the next president if the popular vote reflects in the Electoral College.
Well, 2016 would prove that, right? I mean, so I guess he is right. And whether or not it's a white person, that's kind of irrelevant. Because it's the will of the most people is majority rule, right? And most of the people.
Which we all know we're browning and browning and browning.
Right.
So.
And it's another kind of. He's sweeping against the tide like a lot of the white Republicans tend to do, in that, if you fear change and if you fear demographic change is going to overwhelm your particular viewpoint, then you try to change the rules to lock out power.
Yeah.
Well, no, this is not about white Republicans. When we talk about the browning of America, it's going to happen. But when you go back to the founding fathers, the reason that the Electoral College came in was the fact they didn't want those larger states deciding who the president is. Now, here in 2020, it just so happens that looking at history, it's going to be a lot more brown people in those populist states. So the question becomes, do you go back before the Electoral College came into play, and where we will be in those states, Florida, California, and New York, where we will be the browning of America earlier? Or do you stay with the Electoral College?
Right, and there were only 12 states at the time that they made these decisions.
They didn't want Virginia to dominate.
This manifest destiny that we're doing right now wasn't a part of the original plan. Jefferson wasn't sitting around thinking about that.
It was the anti-Virginia compromise.
No, it was one of those discussions.
So you also have to understand, though, right? If we're talking about Electoral College, right, then you're saying that Wyoming is going to get the same amount of senators.
No, I'm not saying that.
Well,
if
we expand it, it's the basis that you're allowing. So one of the reasons why the Senate is so deadlocked, and it's one of the reasons why Mitch McConnell was
Wyoming,
Iowa, and you have sparsely populated states
South Dakota
that have the same amount of power, same amount of political power, and therefore we get justices like Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, that you cannot filibuster because you don't have the population strength, and that the guy from Wyoming, the two senators from Wyoming, have an equal same vote as the two senators from California, New York, etc.
And that's how it was set up.
I don't know that that's a problem. I mean, elections matter. I would love to talk about this all day, y'all, but we have more. The lovely Miss Candace Owens, who is paid by a pro-Trump super PAC, is darling of conservatives. That's because she's black. Not because she is a student of history. She proved it once again in a speech at the Conservative Political Action Committee, or CPAC, conference this week.
First and foremost, stop selling us our own oppression. Stop taking away our self-confidence by telling us that we can't because of racism, because of slavery. I've never been a slave in this country. Stop telling us that we need to be obsessing over our past when we should be obsessing over our future and the potential that we have.
That was short. Maybe once more again.
First and foremost, stop selling us our own oppression. Stop taking away our self-confidence by telling us that we can't because of racism, because of slavery. I've never been a slave in this country. Stop telling us that we need to be obsessing over our past when we should be obsessing over our future and the potential that we have.
Yeah, so if one of us isn't free, then we're all not free. She probably doesn't know about quotes like that.
Oh, she does. Because she sued. She sued and won. She sued and won. She sued and won and said the school district that she attended school in was racist and discriminated against her and blah, 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 and sued them and won. What you're seeing right now is what happens when the conservative movement is able to pick off somebody. You know, they have a hot moment. You know, a lot of folk go through it. You know, at one point in time, I went through a small version of it. They pick you off, you have a hot moment, they blow you up, and then, you know, you feel as though you have to, you know, just run along with whatever the narrative is. And that's what you're getting out of Candace Owens. You know, very rarely do I agree with Joe Walsh, but, you know, he came out and said, hey, listen, you guys are being played by her. I mean, she's done nothing. She's made no strides in the black community. I mean, she's literally if you could take Matt Boyle or Ben Shapiro and put a black female face on it, that's what you're getting, Candace Owens.
Well, I mean, understand. She's entertainment purposes only.
She's worse than Katrina. She's worse than Katrina Pearson in Manhattan.
I'm not sure about that. But here's the thing. What she's saying, though, is not just the inflammatory entertainment purposes stuff. It's the complete disrespect for the resiliency of her own people, because she's saying, you know, stop taking away. Why does she think they can take my confidence away? Or any of us, for that matter? I mean, we are, 156 years out of slavery, and we've had presidents, and we're about to see all of the women of Congress who are of color, and all of the things that we've done while still dealing with systemic oppression for the entirety of the time since the Emancipation Proclamation. How does she not get that? I mean, there's another way to sell her story without tearing down her own people.
But it's a lot easier, and it plays a lot better at CPAC, that kind of a message that she's delivering. I mean, CPAC is like a very interesting place. I've been there a couple times. I call it Planet CPAC. Yeah. I mean, on Planet CPAC, you kind of have to breathe the atmosphere, and if you breathe the atmosphere, you're rewarded for it, and you survive. So I think that what she is doing, she's having a hot moment, and her hot moment says she's going to go with the flow, and that's that. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's not true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the game. You know, she's got game. I just wish she would use her powers for good instead of evil. CJ.
Well, I like Candace. She is a friend. Is she provocative? Yes. I love Katrina. And I think each one of us that are black women who are Republican, who are conservative, our delivery is different. It's no different than you have, you know, some conservative black males. And so, like Jesse Williams. So you have different women, different platforms who go out there and speak.
Right, but she's not provocative.
She's not conservative.
Only. I mean, never mind conservative. She's not provocative, though, only. She lies, right, with impunity. She gives false facts in speeches, and then she says things intentionally that aren't just provocative but that are destructive to others in order to advance herself. How I mean, I'm not saying how can you be a friend, because I have some friends who people challenge me about. What I'm saying is, do you ever have an opportunity to infuse some of the very rational thought that you've been exhibiting, at least so far in our conversation tonight?
I think all of us, when we get together, we have our own real talk when we all get together. And I think for Candace is defending what she believes in and how she wants to deliver that conservative message in order for people to hear what she's attempting to say and on her platform. My platform is different. I focus on African-American businesses and what this administration has done, like over 9% growth on SBA loans to black-owned businesses. We have 400% growth in black-owned businesses under this administration. Just 2 weeks ago, we had black CEOs that announced $2.5 billion worth of shovel-ready projects and opportunity investment zones at the White House. And so that's where my focus is.
Right.
So,
but Eugene, I mean, we've had this conversation before. There's a difference between a conservative, even a brand new baby conservative, and a Trumpkin. Yeah. And to me, these people that we're seeing that have sprouted up in the past 2 years or 3 years, because since the election time, do not reflect conservative values at all.
Not at all. I mean, Candace Owens is not a conservative. She's, maybe been a Republican for a couple months now, and one of the little snippets in the Vice documentary was done that she, slipped up and said, oh, I became Republican 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And this is, 2 years almost into the Trump administration. The thing is this, there are amazing, this is Women's History Month, I think this is a continuation of Black History Month. There are amazing black women conservatives that have been with the Republican Party since the beginning. I mean, we have folk like Kay Coach James and Condoleezza Rice. I mean, we have folk like Tara Setmeyer. I mean, there's a broad reality of strong black female conservatives. Candace Owens isn't among them. I was going to say earlier, I'll take Katrina Pearson, who's somebody that actually has legitimate conservative bona fide credentials, over Candace Owens. You'll never hear Katrina go out there and justify Hitler and try to clean it up and just say, oh, hey, it was okay, cool if he did this in Germany. But when he took it international, that's when it got messed up. That's not conservatism.
Right.
Neo-Nazism is not
scary.
conservatism.
That
is white supremacy. And the thing is this, the fact that she felt comfortable even vocalizing something like that showed you how screwed up and fucked up Turning Point is. That, they kept her and they coddled her and they said, hey, it's just a boob, keep moving.
Cover your ears. We've dropped an F-bomb. Okay, we've got plenty of more really great show left, and Eugene's going to get some soap in his mouth before we come back. Let's take a break, and then we'll be back with the Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., live from Selma, Alabama.
You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble, because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it just messes me up every single time. So, I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
You've heard us talk about consent decrees, especially consent decrees between the U.S. Department of Justice and individual police departments. I can name a few that need them right now. These agreements are a set of rules and procedures to force police departments to clean up their acts in regard to corruption, police shootings, and racial discrimination. Chicago has one. New Orleans has one, which has been very successful. Many officers and police unions are very much opposed to these, and the Trump administration doesn't like them either. There is one such consent decree in Baltimore, and the National Police Association has sent a letter to Donald Trump asking his help in watering it down. But a reporter for the Baltimore Sun newspaper wanted to know just what the National Police Association is. Joining us now with the surprising answer is that reporter, Justin Fenton. Justin, welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So you've got the scoop on these fake organizations, which we've been hearing about propping up and taking on a name and taking on a cause supposedly when there really is a hidden motivation behind it. What'd you find out about them?
Yeah, I mean, we got a press release the other day from the National Police Association, and it said that they were calling on the president to essentially water down the consent decree, that it was holding officers back. And, you know, that was not surprising. A lot of police organizations do feel that way. They oppose them. They want to see them revised. But you know, I was looking at the organization saying, I'm not familiar with this. Their website looks legitimate, but there wasn't a lot of information about sort of who comprised the organization. In fact, the person who signed the letter, Ed Hutchison, said he was the president and CEO. There's no bio of him, so I just started trying to poke into his past and figure out who he was, and the answer was surprising.
What was the answer?
So first of all, he didn't respond to any of our requests for comment, which I think is telling off the bat. This is someone who put out a press release, wanted media attention, wants press coverage, wants us to highlight his voice and boost what he has to say, but then is nowhere to be found when you try to interview him for comment. And so after I poked around a little bit, I started to see his name associated with a boxing organization that seemed to have been, you know, sort of this minor boxing group that failed. Then he was showing up associated with a website called USA Dream Girls. It was a model search website where you rate women on their looks. And I'm thinking, does this person have any law enforcement experience at all? And it turns out he's an investigator in the licensing division of the Indiana Attorney General's office. The most telling thing, I think, in my article was that in the documents that the organization filed, and they are registered as a 501c3, so they can raise money, they can advance causes. The vice president of the group, the listed vice president, is a 79-year-old retired boxing promoter out of Indiana, and he did not know that he was the vice president of this organization. So, yeah.
Well, I know that in the state of Maryland, those organizations can be shut down for not adhering to all of the rules that are supposed to govern 501c3s. Have they been reported?
I'm not sure about that. You know, they're registered in Delaware. They're headquartered in Indianapolis. They have not filed a 990 for last year. The one that they filed in 2017 showed that they raised $103,000, but that they were operating at a net loss of $113,000. So I'm not really sure what the end game here is for this group. I don't know, you know, but they were getting really active. I should note that it wasn't just this press release about the Baltimore consent decree. They got involved they filed a bar complaint against Rachel Rollins, the district attorney in Boston. They signed on to amicus briefs in the Supreme Court about immigration cases, and they also got involved in a case in Ferguson involving Officer Darren, I'm forgetting his name at the moment, but they've been trying to weigh in on these things and become a vocal, persuasive voice. And so I thought it was important that some questions be raised about it. What exactly is this before people start giving their money to them and taking them seriously?
Right, and I'd be interested in knowing who large backers are, because every time you follow the money, you get some answers. Well, thank you so much for digging, and I hope you'll continue doing great reporting and keep us posted, because this is important.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. It's National Women's Month, and I wanted to share with you this wonderful video I saw earlier today on Twitter with the women of the Congressional Black Caucus, women who might not be in Congress without the work of people like a guest we're going to be talking to soon, Reverend Jackson.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies.
You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise.
Does my sassiness upset you?
Why are you beset with gloom?
'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room.
Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of times.
Just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise.
Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head, lowered eyes?
Shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries.
Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard?
'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes.
You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise.
Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise?
That I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs.
Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise.
Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise.
I'm a black ocean leaping and wide.
Welling and swelling, I bear in the tide.
Leaving behind nights of terror and fears, I rise.
Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave.
I am the dream and the hope of the slave.
I rise.
I rise.
I rise.
And indeed, still we rise. Last month, Roland talked to Sally Cohen, the author of the book, The Opposite of Hate. They discussed hate and how it plays a serious role in today's news, politics, and even internet trolling. Take a look.
All right, Sally, glad to have you here. Let's get right into it. Your book is called The Opposite of Hate, a field guide to repairing our humanity. But the reality is we're living in a time where folks are operating on polar opposites. When you look at the language emanating from the White House, attacks on undocumented workers, when you look at just every form of criticism, it is as if we are in a death match every time there's a conversation.
As per usual, Roland, I couldn't have said it better myself, and nice to see you. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If it gives anyone comfort, this may not be the worst, ugliest, nastiest moment in human or certainly in United States history, right? We are a country that, as we all know, or at least as your viewers and your viewers know, was founded on hate, obviously the genocide of Native people founded on and built on enslaving Africans. And this isn't like we've fought tooth and nail, community by community by community, decade by decade by decade ever since, just to give even little bits of progress toward humanity, towards group after group after group. So, unfortunately, this kind of animosity, this kind of us versus them, this kind of deep hate and resentment is part and parcel of who we seem to be as a nation. And at the same time, that's never stopped us from fighting against it and demanding that we do better, learn better, act better, be better, to borrow from Melania Trump, ironically. And I continue to hold out hope, at least, that our side of the equation can hold the country's feet to the fire.
But one of the things that jumps out, you have a chapter called Why We Hate the Trolls, and you talk about when you worked at Fox News and how folks are off camera. And the reality is, I believe, especially when you talk about conservative radio and a lot of the folks on Fox News, that they know this is a game. And the reality is they're playing a game. The problem is it's a dangerous game because the people who are listening to that every single day. I don't think people, look, I'm born and raised in Texas. I don't think people understand when you go to Texas and Louisiana and you go to Arkansas, you go to all those red states. You are bombarded with the same messaging every single day on 5 and 6 talk radio stations, and they watch Fox News all day, and that's all they hear.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, listen, I don't think we should make, we don't have to sort of over-characterize the dangers of rhetoric and speech, right? Like, I don't think that, you know, we live in a free society where we allow free speech, even hate speech, for better or for worse. And that's part of our democracy and part of what we've always believed as a country. And what I certainly believe is that the answer to bad speech is more speech, is good speech, is positive speech, constructive speech, speech that corrects wrongs and rights our country and our values. And at the same time, like, all we have to do is look at, you know, you're talking about Fox is certainly one problem. The president is obviously a problem. At his own rally this week, he's, you know, attacking the media live right there. And one of his supporters turns and attacks a BBC cameraman. I mean, there are direct consequences, and you're exactly right. I don't want to give too much credit to Trump. I don't know if he knows what he's doing or he doesn't know what he's doing, but he damn well should. And it's reckless, it's irresponsible, and increasingly it's very, very dangerous.
And one of the things that you know, I wish we could have is, I mean, I think back to the 60s. And the other day I was watching several documentaries, and I Am Not Your Negro, James Baldwin. I was watching something on Malcolm X as well. You know, people don't understand. You had shows like Dick Cavett, and you had other shows that were talk shows, but you had real vigorous debate. Malcolm X, I mean, we talk about Muhammad Ali and Nikki Giovanni, when you had Gore Vidal and William Buckley, and you had, again, James Baldwin and these debates. I mean, you had real conversations, debates. They weren't strangling each other. They weren't saying, cut your mic off. And you really had these thought-provoking debates. And I think part of the problem today, when we talk about this level of hate, is that we have people who are playing to the cheap seats, and they really don't want vigorous debate. They really don't want to be challenged by folks from the other side. And I talk about all the time, you know, it's amazing how all these Fox News shows are scared to even call me. And I'm going, okay, you want debate? Let's go. But it's a game, and it's a financial game. It's a ratings game. And it's not a quest for true information. It's really, you know what? How much money can we make?
Well, I mean, you want to go, like, make the deeper cut here. The truth is, again, it's not just Fox. And listen, I mean, I sort of, I think it's so easy to point out the hate and the hypocrisy and the nastiness and the cruelty and the bias and the bigotry on the right and the far right and the Fox and the Trump and the whatever. And I'll continue to do it till the cows come home. It's bad. It's abominable. And it's worse than almost anything else we can point to. And let's not let everybody off the hook, including our side, right? So, like, why don't we see exactly what you're talking about, Roland, on, you know, MSNBC or CNN for that matter, or on network television?
Because,
right?
again, I think it goes back to the game. I think, unfortunately, what has happened, and it really is, and for those of us who study this medium, look, there was a time when news was not a profit generator, okay? It wasn't. I mean, it was about the public good. But I think what has happened is we've turned media now into infotainment, into entertainment, and we're getting away from how can we discuss the issues. I don't give a damn if Senator Kirsten Gillibrand ate fried chicken with her fingers or with a fork. I really don't, okay? What was she there talking about in South Carolina? And I think that's also what generates this hate because see, there you go, and as opposed to what did she say? What did she talk about?
To watch the whole 34-minute interview, just head over to youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. You've heard us. That was not Correct? Okay. Looks like we're going to go and take a break. And then when we come back, we have some good news about HBCUs.
All my limitations are self-imposed, and my liberation can only come from true self-love. Journalist Max Robinson.
For today's #HBCU Giving Day, our school is Cheyney University of Pennsylvania. Cheyney was founded in 1837 and is located in Cheyney, Pennsylvania. Notable alumni included Jim Vance, Marcus Foster, Ed Bradley, Rebecca Cole, and many more. To donate to Cheyney, please visit www.cheyney.edu. As a graduate of an HBCU, I can't tell you how important it is that we support them. I'm sorry to hear what's going on with Bennett right now.
Yeah.
We need to be doing all we can.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is this, you know, folks support HBCUs the way they should. You know, colleges like Benton wouldn't end up in a situation where you're now begging, you know, the board for it not to pull your accreditation.
Yeah, so do all you can, guys. We'd like to leave you on a positive note. HBCU enrollment that has been declining for 6 consecutive years is finally on the rise. The high point was in 2010 with 326,000 students, and the low point since then in 2016 with 292,000. The 2017-2018 academic year saw 298,000 students enroll. Even better news, charitable giving and grant making to HBCUs increased for the 4th consecutive year, surpassing more than $338 million during the 2016-17 academic year. So as we said, Roland is in Selma, Alabama, and as you can imagine, it's got to be hectic and everyone is going there because this is now the 54th anniversary of the Selma horrible riots that we know even Congressman John Lewis was injured to the point of death by troopers during that time in 1965. We were hoping to talk to Reverend Jackson, but he couldn't get to the church on time. The preacher's late, but hopefully Roland will be able to bring us that interview. Hopefully Roland will be able to bring us that interview and much, much more, which I'm sure he will, starting shortly after the show. Just go to youtube.com/Roland Martin and don't forget to turn on your live notifications there and on Facebook and Periscope. As I said at the top, I'm just in the seat for the day. Roland will be back on Monday bringing fire and funk and all the stuff the hardest working black man in television does. I'm Monique Presley. Thanks, Ro, for giving me a shot in the hot seat. Thank you to our panel.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? The blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.
Martin.